Hello everybody and welcome again to lyranara.com and lyranara.me, the place where you can find the most powerful holistic treatment as well as diagnosis tools and some of the most amazing natural supplements are available on the market today. And today's presentation is about what we call the Health Quadriga. And you're gonna find out what we mean by that. It's actually a total treatment concept, things you have to take care of so that you remain healthy and become healthy again. And I would like to start this off with a small little quote by Dr. Rudolf Virchow. And he said, "If I could live my life over again, I would devote it to proving that germs seek their natural habitat, which is diseased tissue, rather than being the cause of the diseased tissue." And what we mean by that, you're going to find out in this presentation and much, much more. So let's get started. And I would like to kick this off by talking a little bit about basic healing principles. So first of all, a successful healing intervention must respect the body's intelligence and work with the body according to its innate programming to fix itself. So it must help your body help itself, which it is very capable of. Then a successful healing intervention also must supply the needed body-compatible nutritional elements that are also found in nature. And there must be encouraging of the energy production or a provision of the body-compatible energy. You also need to be aligned with the basic natural principles. And the basic principles are: the self-correcting principle is the body heals itself. We have an internal self-preserving program. The second one is that the dynamic restorative balance, good health, requests a dynamic restorative rebalancing act which is based on the intelligent design of the human body. And then we have the disease principle, that diseases are the result of an insufficient, disturbed self-recovery process or a lack of energy of the innate restorative force. If you cannot bounce back from an insult, if you have strong emotions that you're not dealing with, the first step towards diseases is taken. Then another principle is that the personal vulnerability is key. So you need to know your personal vulnerabilities and you must try hard to correct those and thus eliminate imbalances. Then we also have the causation principle. So this means that this causes that, and these categorical statements are not only often wrong, but distort the reality and the understanding of the etiology of imbalances and diseases. Then we have also the principle of feeling better versus getting better, and the unseen insult principle, which means that the kind of things that are unbalancing you are mostly invisible. And the largest potatoes pushing you back to diseases is stress as well as psychostress especially. Another principle is what we call the backup principle or plan B, which means that every part of our body is important and there are no vestigial organs. However, when the organs are removed, we can still function. There is always a plan B due to the intelligent contingency plans that are put into effect for our survival. Another principle is that the more now and less later principle. A higher level of herbal dosages is needed now to turn a person around and push his or her tissue out of imbalance than needed to keep moving out of imbalance, and less than are needed to keep them away from the imbalanced state. If the unseen insults remain in small dosages, will need to be continually taken to those supplements to avoid a degenerative multiple chronic state. Another principle is that a symptom such as pain or dysfunction manifests at a point A, but rarely originates there. And also, infections are never the root cause of diseases. That might surprise you, but the microbes are present to bioremediate the tissue, but are not the ones causing the disease, and we will talk more about that later. And last but not least, food cravings are legitimate attempts of the intelligent body to balance itself. They bear no evil. Herbs are strong remedies and strong foods. So how do you get sick then? Well, the human body works as a complex electrical system. Thoughts and emotions are electrical signals, beliefs, habits, and strong emotions are stored in your brain, and when an unattended emotional shock or a conflict occurs, appear on specific regions of the brain edema in form of concentric rings. Your autonomic nervous system and hormonal system are getting the wrong signals, therefore, and this disturbs the autoregulation and the biochemistry of your body. And in the coming 3 to 4 years, the organs or functions of your body get impaired, cellular, physiological changes and chronic degenerations occur, and you become diseased. Homotoxins from the environment, from the food, from the water, the air and the soil, as well as electrosmog penetrate easier into your body, and thereby disturbing the cellular polarity and the cell communication. Psycho-emotional and epigenetic factors together with those homotoxin signals bring the body out of homeostasis, and the autoregulation does not function properly anymore. The cells lose their polarity, the membrane potential is decreasing, and you become chronically sick. And you can see this all in this nice graph. You should also keep in mind that those psychological conflicts go together with cell depolarization and energy blockages that affect your autonomic nervous system and your hormonal system. And if you don't find a resolution to the conflicts and you don't get into the healing phase of the disease, you will get cell repolarization. How are those negative emotions that you are not dealing with properly affecting your brain? Well, after decades of research and active therapy with over 131,000 patients, Dr. Hammer established firmly how conflict shock results in a cold, cancerous, or necrotic phase, and how the conflict resolution reverses the cancerous process and returns the individual to health. Diseases are meaningful biological programs of nature to trigger your attention to solve a conflicting situation that is disturbing your whole body. Diseases and healing processes are divided into 5 biological phases, all of which can be identified, measured, observed, and are part of a system that makes it possible to make a clear prediction of events and health developments. A biological conflict shock causes the appearance of a focus of activity in the brain, as you can see in the pictures on the right, called the hammerhead. This set of concentric rings that you can see here, that can be seen in a city, for example, is centered on a precise point of the brain. As you can see, the location of the focus depends on the nature of the shock conflict or the conflict contents. As soon as the HH appears, the organ controlled by the specific brain center registers a functional transformation. This transformation can manifest as a growth, which becomes a tumor, as tissue loss, which are ulcers, or as a loss of function, which is diabetes, for example. Next, we need to talk about organ ontogenesis. And what is ontogenesis? Ontogenesis, or the development of the individual, is a short and quick recapitulation of the phylogenesis, or the development of the tribe to which it belongs, determined by the laws of inheritance and adaptation. And the disease and healing processes are explained and proven by Dr. Hammer. makes sense both from a phylogenetic as well as an ontogenetic point of view. For humans and mammals, the oldest conflicts are originating from the brainstem and result in cancerous growth, which are tumors. The resolution of these conflicts leads to a breakdown of the tumor and restoration of health. The old brain controls the organs emerging from the endoderm, the innermost germ layer in our organism. And this was the first system to appear in the embryo, later to be covered by the mesoderm and the ectoderm over several millions of years of evolution. So let's talk about some examples to better understand how conflicts trigger specific diseases and are related to specific organs. First is the morsel conflict. It refers to how we handle what life throws at us, such as trauma, bills, accidents, deadlines, moves, relationships that matter, job losses, financial losses, betrayals, accidental deaths of a close person, summarized as the big bad news. All of these conflicts affect the digestive tract organs which develop from the endoderm. When a morsel is thrown at us, we can grasp it through the mouth, swallow it through the throat, the esophagus, break it down into pieces in our stomach, separate the good from the bad in the small intestine, or forgive and let it go through the large intestine and your rectum. A morsel is an indigestible anger. Second category are the so-called territorial conflicts, which are attacks with words, fights, weapons, sensations of losing territory, and this affect the deep skin and the membranes inside your body that function as protective layers. These conflicts are sudden and unexpected, verbal and or physical assaults, attack on your reputation, etc. It is often perceived as being defiled such by something that tarnished you. Organs developed from the mesoderm are affected by such conflicts. These territorial conflicts constitute a violation of your territory, of your possessions, of your authority, or of your social position. In a territorial conflict, you would lose any of these, such as, for example, you are assigned a new job with new responsibilities. For you, this is a territorial loss. Your neighbor's loud music may be perceived as a territorial infringement, and our inability to find an agreement with them would be a territorial loss of a marked territory. These conflicts affect the ectoderm developed organs and manifest in forms such as ulcers, the linings of the ducts, as well as in your vessels. Then we have the so-called pack conflicts, which characterize our relationship with other members of our family, our colleagues, the pack that we rely on. These kind of conflicts include mating, nurturing, separation, as well as divorces. And the reason why specific conflicts, are indissolubly tied to the specific brain areas is that during our historical evolution, each part of the brain was programmed to respond instantly to conflicts that could threaten our survival. While the old brain, which is the brainstem and the cerebellum, is programmed with basic survival issues that relate to breathing, eating, reproduction, the new brain, which is the cerebral medulla as well as the cerebral cortex, is encoded with more advanced themes such as territorial conflicts, separation conflicts, identity conflicts, as well as self-devaluation conflicts. And here we have a very interesting table that shows you the brain areas and the associated tissue that is affected by conflicts, as well as on the right the type of conflict that causes such effects. So first up is the brainstem, a controlled endoderm, the innermost functioning tissue of digestion, elimination and procreation. So affected is all digestion, the pancreas, the liver, the thyroid, the lung alveoli, the kidney collecting tubes, the bladder, the uterus, the fallopian tubes, as well as the prostate, and the stress or the conflicts that are causing such diseases are physical, survivability, and procreation, which means I can't make it from not being able to perform a survival task or process a life event. Other conflict metaphors are I cannot take it, I cannot handle it, I cannot get over it, I cannot let go of it. So those are indigestible morsel conflicts, or isolation and abandonment by those candidate on for survival, starvation, or a death fight. Next up is the cerebellum, and the controlled mesoderm, deep skin and the membranes, which are our protection layer, as well as the dermis, the pleura, the peritoneum, and the pericardium are affected by that. And the conflicts are social survivability, as well as concerns for safety and security. Um, you could say I am being attacked or soiled, physically or verbally. Other conflict metaphors, I couldn't stop it, I couldn't defend myself, that hit me like dot dot dot, that grossed me out, so it's a nesting conflict. Next up is the cerebral medulla controlled mesoderm, which are your bones, your cartilages, tendons, connective tissue, skeletal muscles, all joints are included here, blood vessels, lymph nodes, smooth muscles of the intestines, the myocardium, kidney, parenchyma, adrenal cortex, ovaries, and testicles, the whole lymphatic system, the spleen, as well as the uterine musculature. And the conflicts are doubts about physical survivability, self-concept, I don't measure up, as well as other conflict metaphors, which might be self-devaluation conflicts, unfair remarks, judgments, being put down, like you can't make it, not good enough, you're a failure, you're useless. Those can trigger a loss of self-confidence and humiliation in the territory, and this then leads to those diseases. And last but not least, cerebral cortex controlled ectoderm, which are the linings of all organs, the vessels, the ducts, the squamous cell linings, the tooth enamel, the nails, the retina, as well as the cervix. And those organs can be affected by doubts about social survivabilities, as well as safety and security concerns. So relationships within the pack or with respect to the territory, like when you're saying I'm helpless in my territory. Other conflict metaphors are territorial or pack conflicts, territorial loss, territorial fear, territorial marking, as well as territorial separation and infringement. So all of these subjects about territorial control and discussed. Okay, so diseases manifest in two main phases. The first one is that during the first conflict active phase, we feel mentally and emotionally stressed. We are totally preoccupied with what happened. We have cold extremities, little appetite. We suffer sleep disturbances and lose weight. If we resolve the conflict, we enter the healing phase, during which the psyche, the brain, and the affected organ undergo the phase of recovery. Since conventional medicine fails to recognize the two-phase patterns, many symptoms of the repair phase, such as inflammations, fevers, painful swellings, pus, discharge, blood in your stool, the urine, or the sputum, or infections, are labeled as diseases, although they are in fact natural healing processes. By providing clear scientific evidence that diseases such as cancer do not occur by chance, but as a result of the survival programs that have been successfully practiced for millions of years of evolution, Dr. Hammer shatters conventional medicine, including the medical industry, at its core. With GNM, questions like why me or why cancer are no longer a mystery. Let's talk a little bit more about conflict resolution, which leads to healing. During the first or conflict active phase, the entire organism is geared to dealing with the conflict. While a meaningful cell alteration runs its course on the physical level, the psyche and the vegetative autonomic nervous system also try to handle the unexpected situation. And switched into a stress state, the mind becomes completely preoccupied with the conflict's contents. Sleep disturbances and lack of appetite are typical symptoms for that. Biologically speaking, this is vital because the focus on the conflict and the extra waking hours provide the right conditions for working through the conflict and finding a resolution. The conflict active phase is also called a cold phase. Since the blood vessels are constricted during stress, typical symptoms of conflict activity are therefore cold extremities, particularly cold hands, the shivers, as well as cold sweats. The intensity of the symptoms is naturally dependent on the magnitude of the conflict, of course. If a person dies during the conflict active phase, it is usually because of energy loss, weight loss, sleep deprivation, and emotional and mental exhaustion. Often, it is a devastating cancer diagnosis or negative prognosis, like you have only 6 months to live. That usually throws cancer patients, including their loved ones, of course, into a state of despair. With little or no hope and deprived of their life force, they waste away, eventually die of cachexia, an agonizing process that conventional cancer treatments only accelerate, unfortunately. If the patient has not undergone any conventional treatment, like chemotherapy and radiotherapy especially, such a therapy has a success rate of 95 to 98%. These statistics for Dr. Hammer's remarkable success rate were delivered by the authorities themselves, by the way. After 5 years, 6,000 out of 6,500 patients with mostly terminal cancer were still alive. With conventional treatment, the figures are generally just reversed. So only about 5 to 2% survive. The resolution of the conflict signals the beginning of the second phase of the biological program is that our emotions in our organism switch immediately into a healing mode assisted by the vegetative system's change into so-called vagotonia. During the healing phase, the appetite returns, but we are very tired. We might not be even able to get out of bed. Rest and supplying the organism with nutrients are therefore essential in this phase while the body is trying to heal itself. The second phase is also called therefore the warm phase, as during vagotonia the blood vessels are enlarged, causing warm hands, warm feet, as well as warm skin. And with the resolution of the conflict, there is also an instant change at the organ level. Cell proliferation, so old brain-controlled tumor growth, or cell meltdown, which is cerebrum-controlled tissue loss, immediately comes to a halt and the appropriate repair process is set into motion. An area that necrotized or ulcerated during the conflict active phase is now being refilled and replenished with new cells. This is usually accompanied by potentially painful swelling caused by an edema that protects the tissue while it is healing. Other typical repair symptoms are hypersensitivity, itching, spasms if the muscle tissue is involved, as well as inflammations. Examples of diseases that only occur in the healing phases are certain skin disorders, hemorrhoids, laryngitis, bronchitis, arthritis, arteriosclerosis, bladder or kidney disorders, certain liver diseases, as well as infections. So based on the observation of cell multiplication, also called mitosis, and the standard distinction between benign and malignant tumors, conventional medicine interprets the natural cell production of healing tissues as a malignancy. But the tumors are not divided into good and bad ones. Rather, they are classified according to their tissue type and the part of the brain from which they originate and are controlled. There are those tumors which develop exclusively during the conflict active phase, like lung tumors, colon tumors, liver tumors, uterus tumors, prostate tumors, etc. And conversely, those that result from the natural repair process. As with the old brain-controlled cancers, the tumor growth is neither accidental nor meaningless, since the cell proliferation stops as soon as the tissue is mended. Testicular cancer, ovarian cancer, lymphomas, non-Hodgkin's lymphomas, various types of sarcomas, bronchial and laryngeal carcinomas, and cervical cancer are all of a curative nature and are exclusively phenomena of the healing phase. Provided that the healing process is not interrupted through medication or a conflict relapse, these tumors eventually degrade during the completion of the healing phase. The second type of breast cancer, the ductal carcinoma in situ, or short DCIS, also falls in this category. While a glandular breast cancer is an indication that a woman is in the active phase of a worry conflict, an intraductal cancer is a positive sign that a related separation conflict has been resolved. A woman doesn't develop breast cancer without a reason. Neither does she develop breast cancer by coincidence in precisely her right or left breast. So next, let's talk about microbes that everybody is so afraid of and their role. Microbes and fungi are only active during the healing phase, and the manner in which they operate is fully in accordance with the evolutionary logic called ontogenesis. Tubercular bacteria, for example, populate only old brain-controlled tissues. Their function during the repair phase is to decompose tumors that are now superfluous, like lung tumors, colon tumors, kidney, prostate, uterus, breast gland tumors, as well as melanomas and mesotheliomas. Tubercular bacteria are essential actually for breaking down the buildup of disposable cells that proliferated for a biological reason during the conflict active phase. If the required bacteria are not available due to vaccinations, overuse of antibiotics, or chemotherapy, the tumor cannot disintegrate properly. So as a result, it stays in place and encapsulates harmlessly. Detected in a routine checkup, however, such an encapsulated growth can lead to a cancer diagnosis and potentially new conflict shocks with new symptoms. And by understanding this biological laws of disease development, this prospect can be virtually eliminated. While bacteria break down tumor cells that are no longer needed, viruses, on the other hand, appear to be involved in the healing process of exclusively cerebral cortex-controlled tissues, like the bronchi, the nasal membrane, the stomach lining, the lining of the bile duct, as well as the epidermis. So hepatitis, pneumonia, herpes, influenza, and stomach flu are all indications that a virulent but natural healing process is running its course. Concerning the role of viruses, Dr. Hammer prefers to speak of hypothetical viruses, since lately the existence of viruses has been called into question. This would be in line with Dr. Hammer's earlier findings that the reconstruction and restoration process of ulcerated or necrotized tissue still occurs, even if the tissue-related viruses are not present. The dilemma in which conventional medicine finds itself is that by failing to recognize the two-phase pattern of every disease, the first conflict active phase routinely gets overlooked. And since microbes are only active during the healing phase, and since the activity of microbes is typically accompanied by swelling, fever, pus, discharge, and pain, microbes are considered malevolent and the cause of infectious diseases. But microbes do not cause the disease. After all, it is our organism that employs the microbes to optimize the healing process. Microbes can, of course, be transmitted, but they remain dormant until the person is in the healing phase of the same time conflict. And to give you a better understanding of this concept and to show you that we find real-life examples of these principles, let's look at the lung tuberculosis epidemic after the First World War. Well, you might not know it, but the lung tuberculosis epidemic that came after the First World War was the result of millions of people suffering territorial fear conflicts that affected the bronchi and had potentially fatal pneumonia as a result during the healing phase, and death fight conflicts as well, involving the lung alveoli, causing lung tumors. The end of the war initiated a mass healing, so to speak, of lung tumors, resulting in two pandemics. This is why so many did not survive TB. Tubercular secretion produced during the decomposing process of lung tumors contains high amounts of proteins which are expelled through the sputum. A diet rich in proteins is therefore indispensable to supplement this protein loss. And due to the extreme poverty that was caused by the world economic crises that followed World War I, those afflicted with tuberculosis did not get the protein-rich food they needed for healing. Only those who could afford adequate nutrition were able to survive. The poor, unfortunately, had no chance. The same can be said also about today's TB epidemics and AIDS epidemics, by the way, in countries such as Africa and Asia. These epidemics are not caused by TB bacteria, of course, or HIV viruses even, but are the result of frightening political, social, and economic conditions. What the people in those parts of the world really need is peace and food rather than wars and drugs. In 1944, antibiotics, and this word actually means against life, if you didn't know, were administered for the first time to TB patients. And the reason why antibiotics worked is that the drugs destroy the TB bacteria in charge of breaking down the lung tumors. A rapid succession of anti-TB drugs appeared in the following years, and those drugs stopped the TB disease, but by eradicating the helpful TB bacteria, the lung cancers of millions of people experiencing the horrors of yet another world war could no longer be removed, and as a result, the tumors encapsulated and stayed in place. However, during any lung checkup, even years later, these old, inactivated and encapsulated tumors could be seen on lung X-rays. And this is how lung cancer became the most frequent cancer after the Second World War. It has nothing to do with smoking, or very little. Today, the overuse of antibiotics is one reason why more cancers are found during routine examinations. Other factors are more sophisticated screening methods and pressure for more testing. We have to bear in mind that every diagnosis shock can potentially cause lung cancer that is the result of a life-threatening conflict. And here's another very interesting example that proves this theory about how you become ill. Have you ever heard about the Masha and Dasha twins? Well, if not, let's talk about them here. The story of the Masha and Dasha twins is that they are two Siamese or co-joined twins. Uh, although Masha and Dasha have 4 arms, they have only 3 legs. They stand on 2 of their legs, and one is controlled by Masha, the other one by Dasha. There were 5 before they learned how to walk, and a third leg, a vestigial leg, remains in the air behind them. Their upper intestines are separated by but they share a single lower intestine as well as a rectum. They have 4 kidneys and 1 bladder and often disagree on when to urinate, and they have a common reproductive system. Because their circulatory systems are interconnected, the twins also share each other's blood. And here's where it becomes really, really interesting. Therefore, A bacterium or virus that enters one twin's bloodstream will soon be seen in the blood of her sister. Yet the surprising thing is that illnesses affect them differently. Dasha is short-sighted, prone to colds and right-handed. Masha smokes occasionally, has a healthier constitution, higher blood pressure than her sister, as well as good eyesight, and is left-handed. Why did one then become ill with a childhood disease like measles, for example, while the other did not? The measles bug was in both of their bodies. They shared the same blood. So why didn't both of them get measles, for example? Evidently, there is more to getting the measles than having the measles bug, we would say. This phenomenon was seen over and over again with the girls when they had flus, colds, and other childhood diseases, where they both experienced those diseases separately, even though, again, they share the same blood. If germs alone had the power to cause infectious diseases, why would one of the twins be disease-free while the other one was ill? Next, we need to talk about how to eliminate homotoxins, so how to detoxify, because as we talked about in the beginning, this is also another major contributing factor to becoming ill. So healthy cells are always bipolar with one positive and one negative charge. Bipolar cells support the energy flow through your body like a battery, and energy blockages occur as ancient medicines originating from China and India figured out already thousands of years ago. Only bipolar cells can be permeated by electrical signals. They can transport energy and communicate with other cells. A membrane potential of a minimum 70 millivolts or higher is a characteristic of a healthy, well-functioning cell that is generating enough ATP energy necessary to keep our bodies alive. And when cells become monopolar and are charged minus minus or plus plus instead of minus plus or plus minus, the energy cannot flow anymore, nutrients do not penetrate into the cells, and metabolic waste cannot be excreted properly. And those cells are becoming more and more acidic, toxic, and return to the fermentation phase, which is an ancient process that is characteristic to the incipient life on this planet, and you become sick. Endogenous homotoxins are produced and stored in the body. Metabolic internal waste products, for example, infections, inflammations, emotional, psychological toxins, as well as byproducts of oxidative stress and many more. Exogenous homotoxins, on the other hand, are ingested, inhaled, injected, or dermally absorbed into your body, and those might be heavy metals, pesticides, fertilizers, VOCs, food additives, microbes, and many more. So the detoxification process implies the following 5 steps. First, we recommend intermittent fasting for 4 to 6 weeks. Then secondly, regularly detoxify and eliminate the homotoxins using such powerful equipment as the Med Matrix system, the Aquatone, as well as great supplements such as the Herbezo product line, which I'm going to link, of course, as always, in the description box below. Third, check with the amazing Bioscan SWA the level of homotoxins after each treatment with the Med Matrix, which is a very powerful detoxification tool. Also, we recommend that you use the Aquatone to improve body fluid rheology to secure better functionality of the cardiovascular as well as the cerebrovascular system. And then fifth, you must reduce the impact of electrosmoke by using the VitaChip and the TrialMed CGI. Next up on the list of what you can do to remain in perfect balance is that you need to correct your autonomic nervous system and your body biochemistry. So once the psycho-emotional conflict was resolved, the self-healing process starts, of course. No doubt that to support and speed up this process, we recommend some very, very powerful tools such as the biotonometer and the kindling easy to train your ANS, which rebalances your sympathetic and parasympathetic nerves to correct and reestablish the body's autoregulative capabilities. Then also we recommend that you use the Geno 62 to correct the body's biochemistry, as well as balance the brain hemispheres and your ANS to correct the cellular polarity to vibrationally correct disturbing frequencies. Third, chronic diseases always develop in an acidic milieu. Three parameters are important to be measured and adjusted to the optimal value, which are pH value, RH2 value, and R values for your blood, for your urine, and your saliva. pH values determine the acidity, alkalinity of the body. Ideally, the blood pH should be at 7.34, your saliva should be at 6.5, and the urine varies during the day. However, an average is at about 6.8. The RH2 or redox potential, which shows electron surplus at specific pH values, and the value of the oxygen-hydrogen partial pressure on a scale from 0 to 42, with a neutral value at 28, where the partial pressure of hydrogen is equal to that of oxygen. Biologically, ideal values for RH2 are between 22 and 24 for all of the fluids, blood and saliva. And then electrical conductivity, R, is a result of electrolytes, which means mineral concentration in your body. So the correction of pH, RH2 and R values is possible by changing your lifestyle, adequate nutrition, avoiding overeating and overdrinking, a good sleep behavior, as well as the correct supplementation. And here you see 4 amazing tools that do just that. They correct your ANS and your biochemistry that we talked about. First, here on the left, you see the Kindling Easy system, one button operation, fully automated. Then on the right upper part, you see the biotonometer and the bioscan. On the left lower part, you see the Geno 62. And on the right corner, you see the bioscan SWA. All of those are amazing tools. If you need any consultation on which one you need specifically for your needs, of course, give us as always a call. We love to talk to you and recommend you what works best for you. 1-888-773-3196 again. And all of those tools are highly recommended, and of course, you're going to find the links in the description box below today. And of course, also of importance is tissue repair. So during the healing phase, there are many activities related to tissue repair. It is the time when most symptoms and pain sensations manifest. And unfortunately, most patients are visiting doctors exactly at the wrong time and get the wrong treatments. And the consequences are quite grave. They are the reversal of the natural healing process, even organ removals, and more toxic drugs and more damages to the patient. And how you can prevent this and finally repair the tissue, you ask, well, first, electrify your body to repolarize the cells and re-establish an optimal cellular communication and cellular metabolism. And here we recommend the amazing Veget Balance galvanic therapy system, quite new in our arsenal of tools. Amazing results with this. Again, if you need more information, go to our website or give us a call. Also, second, use our Vivid artemisinin to clean and refurbish the tissue, as well as eliminate cellular waste and homotoxins. Third, we recommend that you use DMSO and especially our Herbeso DMSO compounded products to stimulate the body system, to support your liver, your heart and cardiovascular system, as well as improve lymph rheology and lymphatic detoxification. Also, it reduces inflammations and stimulates the cell regeneration and much, much more. Fourth, keep your cardiovascular and cerebrovascular system in the best possible shape by using strophantine, which is literally the heart elixir, and it's available exclusively at lyranara.me. Links, as always, in the description box. So it's time to close this presentation with a recap of what we call the Health Quadriga. The greatest wealth is your health, and those 4 steps on how you get sick and how you heal all diseases known to man on this planet, we call the Quadriga of Health. And the first horse of the Quadriga is the continuous education. So pay attention to your body and learn how it reacts to different stressors. Learn about your options and how things in your body work. Try to better understand how you get sick and how you can support your body to self-heal. You are the best doctor, period. Learn from nature also, from plants and animals. Be humble, good, and loving. Second horse is the emotional release. Forgive and forget. Every disease is triggered by a shocking, unexpected, strong psychological, emotional event. The associated emotions and feelings to this traumatic event are stored in your brain, forming concentric ring-shaped edemas, as we have seen, and the brain edema location always depends on the type of conflict and ontogenetically associated organ. The brain edema electrical signals deregulate the ANS, the hormonal system, as well as the organ's biochemistry and physiological function, and the cells in the affected organs lose therefore their polarity, cellular communication is shut down, membrane potential is decreasing, and thus the cells are not getting enough nutrients and cannot excrete cellular metabolites. You are sick, and degenerative chronic diseases do and will affect your daily life. To reverse those diseases, you must therefore solve the initial psychological emotional conflict which triggered the illness. And one of the easiest way of doing this is to forgive and to forget the culprits and defects. Third horse is to eliminate the homotoxins and to rebalance your ANS and your body biochemistry. The diseased body is low in energy because non-polar cells consume much more energy than healthy cells, and the healthy cells work as a battery, so no live energy blockages exist, while the sick cells are monopolar, as we've seen, and consume up to 800 times the energy produced by your body. The disturbances in energy flow are homotoxins, generated by your body metabolites, stress hormones, or are ingested, inhaled, transdermally received through your body. These dysregulating factors change your basal metabolism and hinder the self-healing process, and therefore you must remove them by changing your lifestyle and perform active detoxifications, for example, with the great tools that we've presented to you: Med Matrix, Kindling Easy, Geno62, Aquatone, Bioscan, and the Biotonometer to monitor and eliminate those very, very harmful homotoxins. And the fourth horse is the repair tissue and the energization of your body. So electrify your body to repolarize the cells and increase your membrane potential to repair damaged tissue using only natural remedies such as homeopathic remedies, or also the great Herbeso DMSO product line, strophantine, as well as peptides. So, with that being said, I hope that you have enjoyed this presentation. As always, please like, share, and subscribe. We love to hear from you. Give us a call, 1-888-773-3196, or contact us at shop@lyranara.com. Until next time, stay healthy.